She looked me in the eyes and said, "You're a useless husband." Then she filed for divorce that same morning. No warning, no tears, just her wedding ring on the table and papers in her hand. I thought she'd fallen out of love, until a single photo revealed the truth. And when I found out what my wife and her boss were really doing behind my back, I realized I wasn't just betrayed. I'd been played from the very start. If you've ever trusted someone so completely that you couldn't imagine life without them, you'll understand what I felt that morning. I came downstairs expecting breakfast and her usual hum filling the kitchen. Instead, I found Clara, my wife of 6 years, sitting stiff at the table. She wore her work blazer, not her robe. In front of her, a cup of untouched coffee, a pen, and a manila envelope. "Mark," she said without looking up, "I'm filing for divorce." At first I laughed, thought she was joking, but then she said it, calm, cold, rehearsed. "You're a good man, but you've become useless to me." I stood there in silence, heart pounding. "Useless?" I asked. "Because I love you? Because I work overtime to keep us comfortable?" She didn't answer. She just slid the papers toward me, gathered her purse, and walked out. Welcome to Raw Reddit Tales. Subscribe to keep getting the spiciest stories. The days after were a blur. I barely ate. I barely slept. Friends told me to move on, but how do you move on when you don't even know why? Then, 3 days later, a coworker texted me a photo from a business summit in another city. There she was, Clara, laughing in a red dress I bought her last Christmas, standing next to her ex-boss, Daniel Pierce, the same man she once called a manipulative creep. Daniel's hand rested on her waist like it had been there for years. They looked comfortable, intimate. At first, I thought maybe I was overthinking it. But that night when I zoomed in on the photo, I saw it. A faint wedding ring, tan line still marking her finger. She'd filed for divorce before removing it. That wasn't heartbreak. That was strategy. She didn't even try to hide it. A week after she left, I saw her name pop up on a press photo, smiling beside Daniel at a charity gala, her hand casually resting on his chest. The caption read, "CEO Daniel Pierce and his new partner, Clara Monroe." New partner, my wife, my useless husband's self, sat in our half-empty living room, staring at the picture on my phone until the battery died. That night I drank for the first time in months. Not because I wanted to forget, but because I wanted the burn to match what was happening inside me. I kept asking myself, why did she call me useless? Why humiliate me before walking away? She could have just left. She could have told the truth. Then, 2 days later, I got my answer, or the start of one. An envelope slipped under my apartment door. No name, no return address. Inside, 3 printed screenshots, emails between Clara and Daniel. My eyes locked on the first line. Open quote, Clara. "He's starting to suspect something. I'll push for the divorce this week." Daniel, good. "Once his name is off the house, we can finalize the transfers." Close quote. Transfers? My heart raced as I flipped through the rest. Bank accounts, wire receipts, my signature, forged. They'd been moving money out of our joint savings for months into shell accounts under Daniel's company. I was never useless. I was used. I didn't call the police. Not yet. I needed proof. Solid proof. Something that would destroy them both. So I started small. I visited Daniel's company under the pretense of returning Clara's old office items. People there talked too much. I learned Daniel was under quiet investigation for tax fraud and embezzlement, though nothing public yet. Clara had been the one managing the internal finances. The woman I once trusted with my passwords had been helping a criminal move dirty money, right from our home office. That night, I couldn't decide what hurt more, losing my wife or realizing she might have married me for convenience. But one thing was certain. They thought I was weak, broken, predictable. They forgot I'd built my entire career on finding details people tried to hide, and this time, I wasn't going to warn them before I struck back. It starts with silence, the kind that makes people wonder what you're planning. I went to work as usual, smiled at everyone, acted like the broken man they expected. Meanwhile, I spent every spare second digging. I found Clara's digital trail, hidden folders, fake invoices, shared drives that led straight to Daniel's company records. I copied everything. Every cent they'd stolen from me, every transaction linked to Daniel's offshore accounts, every email Clara ever sent under fake names. 2 weeks later, I bumped into her at a cafe downtown. She looked radiant, too radiant for someone who just burned her marriage to the ground. Her smile faltered the second she saw me. "Mark," she said softly, clutching her latte. "You look good." "I could say the same," I replied. "You must be doing well." She hesitated, eyes darting to the barista. I didn't mean for things to end the way they did. I leaned in just enough for her to hear. "No, Clara, you meant every bit of it. That's what makes it impressive." She froze, color draining from her face. For the first time, I saw fear. Not guilt, fear. That night, I uploaded copies of the financial evidence to a cloud drive, but I didn't send it to the police. Not yet. I sent it to Daniel's rival firm, along with an anonymous note. Open quote. "Your competitor has been laundering money through false employee accounts. Start with Clara Monroe and Daniel Pierce." Close quote. Within 3 days, whispers spread through the corporate circle. Daniel's stock plummeted after rumors of financial manipulation leaked. Clara's name disappeared from the company website overnight. They'd both been suspended pending internal review. I should have felt satisfaction. I didn't. I wanted truth. I wanted her to face me. Then she called. 1:47 a.m., her voice trembled. "Mark, please, can we talk? You don't understand, Daniel. He's dangerous." Dangerous. The same man she'd been parading around with now scared her. I stayed quiet. She continued. "He's blaming me for everything. I think he's watching me. I can't go home." I didn't hang up. I didn't comfort her. I simply said, "Now you know what it feels like to lose control." Then I ended the call. But even as I tried to convince myself it was over, something told me Daniel wasn't done. The next morning I woke to pounding on my door. When I opened it, 2 police officers stood there. One held a warrant. "Mr. Monroe," he said, "you're being asked to come with us for questioning regarding a fraud investigation connected to Pierce Global." Daniel? He'd struck first. At the precinct I was shown documents, real, but doctored. My name was now tied to the very offshore accounts I'd uncovered. Someone had switched the data trail to frame me. The officer's eyes were sharp, skeptical. I explained everything. The divorce, the forged transfers, Clara's involvement. They let me go, but not before warning that I was still a person of interest. By the time I got home, my stomach churned with fury. Every file I'd saved, every email, gone. My laptop had been wiped remotely. Someone had broken in. They didn't take cash or jewelry, just my hard drives. That's when I realized Clara hadn't just been used by Daniel. She was still with him. Later that evening, I received a text from an unknown number. Open quote, "You should have stayed quiet, Mark. Some secrets aren't meant to be dug up." Close quote. Then another, minutes later from Clara. Open quote, "Please meet me. I didn't know he'd go this far." Close quote. I hesitated. Every instinct told me it was a trap, but something about her tone, it wasn't the manipulative, polished voice she used to twist my emotions. It was shaky, afraid. We met in an empty parking lot behind an old diner. She looked nothing like the woman who'd left me. Her mascara had run, her hands shook. "Mark," she said, "you were right about everything. But Daniel's not just laundering money. He's using shell companies for something darker. Offshore human transport deals. I didn't know until it was too late." I studied her carefully. "And now you expect me to believe you?" Tears welled in her eyes. "He said if I don't fix this, he'll destroy both of us. He's already moved evidence into your name. You're next." I stepped closer. "You knew what he was capable of when you chose him." Her lips quivered. "I thought he loved me." I almost laughed until a black SUV rolled up behind her, headlights blinding. Clara's breath hitched. "That's his car," she whispered. The driver's door opened slowly. "Mark, run," she said. But it was too late. The man who stepped out of the SUV wasn't Daniel, at least not the clean-cut executive version I remembered from company photos. He looked feral now, sleeves rolled up, eyes red, veins pulsing down his temple like he hadn't slept in days. He smiled the moment he saw me. "Mark Monroe," he said, voice dripping with venom. "The loyal husband, the tragic fool. I should have known you'd dig your way back into this." Clara stood frozen beside me. "Daniel, please." He cut her off with a glare sharp enough to slice through glass. "You think I don't know it was you who leaked the files? You stupid woman. You thought you could outsmart me?" My heart pounded. "Leave her out of this," I said, stepping forward. "You wanted me, right? Here I am." Daniel chuckled. "You? I already have you. Every account under your name now points to mine. The police think you're the architect. You'll rot before I ever do." He raised his hand, a small pistol glinting under the parking lot lights. Clara gasped. My instinct screamed to run, but I didn't. I looked him dead in the eye. "You think you're untouchable, Daniel? You're not." Because what he didn't know was that my phone, resting in my pocket, was recording everything. "Untouchable?" he sneered. "I built this city's greed. I own judges, cops, politicians. You're just a loose end." But Clara suddenly moved, not away, not toward me, but straight at him. "Daniel, stop! You promised." The gun went off. Once. The sound was deafening. She stumbled backward into my arms, her breath catching, eyes wide. Blood spread across her blouse. Daniel froze, realizing what he'd done. His hand trembled, gun dropping to the asphalt. No, I didn't." I lowered Clara gently, pressing my hand against the wound. She coughed, clutching my shirt weakly. "Mark, I'm sorry," she whispered. "He made me do it. I thought if I stayed close, I could protect you." Her voice cracked, tears mixing with the rain that had just begun to fall. Daniel took a step back, panicking. I reached for my phone, still recording. "It's over," I said. "You just ended yourself." He turned, sprinted to his SUV, and sped off into the night. Clara's fingers tightened around my wrist, her eyes losing focus. "Please, tell them I tried." Then her grip went limp. Rain soaked through my clothes as I knelt beside Clara's still body, my mind spinning so fast I could barely breathe. Sirens echoed in the distance. Someone must have heard the gunshot. I should have felt anger, maybe relief, but all I felt was emptiness, the kind that gnaws at your bones. She'd betrayed me, used me, ruined me. And still, watching her die like that didn't feel like victory. It felt like another kind of punishment. When the police arrived, I handed them my phone before they could even ask. "Everything's on there," I said numbly. The recording, Daniel's threats, the shot, all of it. They took me in again for questioning, but this time, I wasn't the suspect. I was the witness. 2 days later, the story hit the news. Pierce Global CEO under investigation for fraud, money laundering, and homicide connection. Daniel had gone missing after Clara's death. His accounts were frozen. His house raided. Everything he'd built was falling apart piece by piece. But here's where it got strange. I received an envelope in the mail. No return address, just my name printed in bold. Inside was a flash drive and a note written in Clara's handwriting. Open quote, "If you're reading this, I'm already gone, but you deserve to know the truth. Not everything between us was fake." Close quote. I plugged the drive into my computer, hands trembling. There were videos. Clara recording herself in what looked like Daniel's office. She talked about how Daniel blackmailed her after finding out she'd been feeding evidence to authorities. She confessed that he'd forced her to marry me years ago to use my clean financial record for his laundering schemes. But near the end, her eyes softened. Open quote. "I fell in love with you, Mark. That wasn't part of his plan. I stayed with him to keep him from killing you. I thought I could protect you. I was wrong." Close quote. My chest tightened. I didn't know whether to cry or throw the screen across the room. Just then, my phone buzzed. A blocked number. I answered. Silence. Then a faint chuckle. Daniel's voice. "You think I'm gone, Mark? You really think this is over? She played you till her last breath." The line went dead. My blood ran cold. Because when I checked the recording on my phone, the one from the night she died, Clara's final words weren't what I remembered. Over and over, each second gnawing deeper into my chest. The video from my phone, the one I'd handed to the police, was different now. I remembered Clara saying, "Please, tell them I tried." But on the raw file from the cloud backup, her actual last words were clearer, whispered between ragged breaths. "Tell Daniel. It worked." I froze. My blood turned to ice. She wasn't apologizing. She was reporting. My mind reeled. The confession drive she'd left me, the sobs, the fear, all of it carefully timed. She knew I'd record the confrontation, knew I'd hand it to the police. She'd played the victim one last time, so I'd do exactly what she and Daniel wanted. Deliver the evidence that took him down. Because when he fell, the fortune tied to his assets defaulted to her offshore account, one registered under a fake name I now recognized from her old emails. Clara Monroe wasn't dead. 2 weeks later, a new story broke on international news. A private jet crash off the coast of Belize. On board, one Daniel Pierce. His body never recovered. But there was a photo taken a day before his flight. Daniel in an airport cafe talking to a woman with auburn hair and dark sunglasses. Same posture, same smirk. Clara. She had planned everything, from the fake fear to the shot to the vanishing act. The blood I saw that night, it hadn't come from her chest. The autopsy report confirmed it. Animal blood. The police believed she'd been shot because I believed it, because that was the final move in her perfect escape. A week later, I received one last envelope. Inside, a single photo. Clara standing on a beach, sunlight hitting her hair, a cocktail in her hand. On the back, in her handwriting, open quote, "You were never useless, Mark. You were essential." Close quote. I didn't know whether to scream or laugh. She'd ruined my name, Shpla, wrecked my peace, taken everything, and still managed to disappear clean. But then the next morning, as I stared at her picture again, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Open quote, "Belize was nice, but you'll love where I'm headed next." Close quote. And attached beneath it, a photo of me sleeping in my bed. The end. Please like and subscribe for more interesting stories like this. What do you think of this story? Please comment below.